welcome back to Bargirl Baddies. Today's story hits different because it's not just about money lost or trust broken. It's about a man who came to Thailand at his absolute lowest, found someone who pulled him back from the edge, and then watched her vanish with everything he had left. His name is James, he's 32, from Manchester, and when he sent us his story, he said something that stuck with me. He said, "She saved my life before she ruined it, and I still don't know if I should hate her or thank her." That's the kind of contradiction we're diving into today. A story about depression, rescue, love that might have been real, and the blurry line between salvation and exploitation. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. If you've ever been saved by the wrong person or loved someone you knew was bad for you, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you're not alone. This is James's story in his own words. I want to start by saying I wasn't some naive kid when I went to Thailand. I was 31. I'd been working in finance for nearly a decade, and I thought I had my shit sorted. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about depression. It doesn't care how old you are, or how much money you make, or whether you look fine on the outside. It just sits there in your chest like a stone, getting heavier every day. Until you wake up one morning and realize you can't remember the last time you actually wanted to be alive. That's where I was, in February of last year. My mum had died 6 months earlier. Cancer, aggressive, the kind that takes someone in weeks rather than months. I'd been her primary carer toward the end, watching this woman who raised me on her own turn into someone I barely recognized. After the funeral, I went back to work like nothing happened. That's what you do, isn't it? You keep going. You show up. You pretend the world didn't just crack in half, but I wasn't keeping going. I was circling the drain. I'd sit at my desk staring at spreadsheets and feel nothing. I'd go home to my flat in Salford and eat takeaway alone in the dark. I stopped answering calls from friends, stopped going to the gym, stopped doing anything that required me to pretend I was okay. My boss pulled me aside in March and said I needed to take some time off. He was being kind, but I could see it in his eyes. I was worrying people. I was becoming a problem, so I did what any rational person in crisis does. I booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok. I'd never been to Thailand before. I barely travelled at all, if I'm honest. But I'd been watching these YouTube videos late at night when I couldn't sleep. Expat channels, digital nomad stuff, guys talking about how cheap it was to live there, how easy life could be if you just walked away from everything. And I thought, why not? What was keeping me in Manchester? A job that felt meaningless. A flat full of furniture my mum helped me pick out. Mates I hadn't seen in months because I couldn't face them. I landed in Bangkok in late March. The heat hit me like a wall when I walked out of the airport. It was thick and wet and smelled like exhaust and street food and something floral I couldn't name. I'd booked 3 nights in a hostel in Khao San Road because that's what the internet told me to do. I figured I'd get my bearings, maybe head south to an island, find a quiet beach somewhere and just exist for a while. But Bangkok doesn't let you exist quietly. It swallows you whole. The first week was a blur. I wandered around temples I didn't care about. I ate pad thai from street carts and told myself I was having an adventure. But mostly, I sat in bars drinking cheap beer, watching other travellers laugh and take photos and live their best lives, and I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in Manchester. At least at home, loneliness was familiar. Here, it felt like failure. I moved to a cheap apartment in Sukhumvit after the hostel stay. 200 quid a month for a studio with a bed, a bathroom and a balcony overlooking an alley full of motorbikes and stray dogs. It was fine. Everything was fine. I wasn't getting better, but I wasn't getting worse either. I was just floating in this weird limbo, drinking too much, sleeping too little, and avoiding every video call from my sister because I didn't know how to explain what I was doing. That's when I met Noi. It was mid-April, about 3 weeks into my stay. I'd fallen into this routine of going to the same bar near my apartment. Not a girly bar, just a regular local place with a few pool tables and cheap whiskey. The owner was this older Thai guy who spoke decent English and didn't ask questions. I liked that about him. I'd sit at the bar, drink steadily until I felt numb enough to sleep, then walk the 10 minutes home. Noi worked there. I'd seen her before, of course. Hard not to. She was 26, slim, with long black hair she kept in a ponytail, and this smile that seemed too big for her face. She served drinks, cleared tables, laughed at the regulars' jokes, but we never really talked. I wasn't there to talk. But this one night, I must have looked particularly shit because she came over and just said, "You okay?" I almost laughed. "Yeah, fine. Just tired." She didn't buy it. She leaned on the bar, studied my face like she was reading something written there. "You come here every night, drink same thing, never talk to anyone, that's not tired, that's sad." I should have been offended. Instead, I felt something crack open in my chest. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Yeah, that's probably fair." She pulled up a stool on her side of the bar. Her boss glanced over but didn't say anything. "What happened?" she asked simply. "And here's the mad thing," I told her. "Not everything, not right away, but enough." I told her about my mum. About the flat I couldn't stand to be in. About feeling like I was underwater and couldn't find the surface. She listened without interrupting, without offering platitudes or trying to fix it. When I finished, she just nodded and said, "I know that feeling, when you can't see tomorrow." She didn't elaborate then. Didn't need to. I could hear it in her voice. She'd been there too. That was the beginning. She started sitting with me on her breaks. We'd talk about nothing and everything. Her English was pretty good, better than my non-existent Thai, and she had this way of asking questions that made me actually want to answer. Where was I from? What did I do before? Did I have brothers or sisters? Normal stuff, but it felt like she actually cared about the answers. I learned bits about her too. She was from Isan, up in the northeast, came to Bangkok when she was 19 to send money home to her family. Her dad was a rice farmer who drank too much. Her mum had health problems. She had 2 younger sisters still in school. The usual story, she said with a shrug. Nothing special. But there was something special about her. She had this lightness, this way of making everything feel less heavy. She'd tease me about my terrible Thai pronunciation or my inability to handle spicy food, and I'd find myself actually smiling. Laughing, even. Things I hadn't done in months. It was just a few weeks of nights at the bar before things shifted. She invited me to go eat with her after her shift one night. We went to this late-night place that served boat noodles, and we sat on tiny plastic stools at a wobbly table, and she taught me how to eat them properly. I burned my mouth. She laughed. I laughed. It felt so normal and so foreign at the same time. After that, we started seeing each other outside the bar. She'd message me during the day, ask if I wanted to go to a market or a park or just walk around. I said yes every time. Not because I was falling for her, not first, but because when I was with her, I didn't feel like I was drowning anymore. I felt like maybe I could breathe. She never asked me for money. That's important to say up front. In all those early weeks, she never once hinted at needing help or being short on cash. She paid for her own food, her own transport. She was proud like that. Independent. But I could see the stress on her. The way she'd check her phone and her face would tighten. The way she'd mention her mum's medication costs or her sister's school fees and then change the subject quickly. I wasn't stupid. I knew she was struggling. Everyone was struggling. One night in early May, we were sitting on my balcony. I'd cooked, if you can call boiling pasta cooking, and we were drinking cheap wine from 7-Eleven. She was quiet, which was unusual for her. I asked what was wrong. She hesitated, then said her mum was in hospital back home. Nothing life-threatening, but they needed money for the treatment. She'd been picking up extra shifts, but it wasn't enough. I didn't even think about it. I asked how much she needed. She said 15,000 baht, about 300 quid. I transferred it to her that night. She cried. Actually cried. She said she'd pay me back, and I told her not to be daft. What was 300 quid to me? I had savings, I had time, and she'd given me something worth more than money. She'd given me a reason to get out of bed. That was the first time. But it wouldn't be the last. Over the next few months, I helped her out here and there. Her rent was due, and she was short. Her motorbike needed repairs. Her sister needed money for a school trip. Never huge amounts, a few hundred here, 1,000 there. It added up, but I didn't care. I was happier than I'd been in a year. She made me want to stay alive, and that felt worth any price. We became a proper couple somewhere in that time. I'm not even sure when exactly. There wasn't a big conversation or a defining moment. We just started spending all our time together. She stayed at my place most nights. We'd wake up tangled together in my too small bed, and she'd make Thai coffee on my hot plate, and we'd sit on the balcony watching Bangkok wake up. Those mornings felt like proof that life could be good again. She told me she loved me in June. We were on a weekend trip to Hua Hin, walking on the beach at sunset, and she just stopped and said it in Thai first, then in English. "I love you." I said it back immediately because it felt true. I did love her. She'd saved me. She'd pulled me out of the dark and shown me that I could still feel something other than grief and emptiness. My sister called in July. I'd been ignoring her messages for weeks, and she was worried. I finally picked up and told her I was fine, better than fine actually. I told her about Noi. She was quiet for a long time, then said, "James, just be careful, yeah? I know you've been through hell, but make sure you're thinking clearly." I got defensive. Told her she didn't understand, that Noi wasn't like that what we had was real. My sister backed off, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. It pissed me off. Everyone always assumed the worst. Everyone thought they knew better. But if I'm honest, there were moments when I wondered too. Little things. The way Noi would sometimes be vague about where she'd been or who she'd been with. The way she'd get defensive if I asked too many questions about her life before we met. The way money always seemed to be a problem, no matter how much I helped. I pushed those thoughts away. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd been burned by life and was projecting. She loved me. She'd proven it 100 times over. The way she held me when I had bad nights. The way she talked about our future like it was a sure thing. The way she looked at me like I mattered. In August, she quit her job at the bar. She said she wanted to spend more time with me, that she was tired of working nights. I offered to support her until she found something else. She protested at first, but I insisted. I was living off my savings anyway, and they were substantial. My mum had left me some money, and I had a decent amount put away from years of working. What was the point of having it if I couldn't use it to make our life better? So I started giving her money every month. 20,000 baht at first, about 400 quid. Enough for her to cover her share of expenses and send money home. It felt good, honestly. It felt like I was taking care of someone, like I had purpose again. But the requests started coming more frequently after that. Her dad had an accident and needed hospital care. Her sister wanted to go to university and needed money for the fees. Her family's house needed repairs. Every few weeks there was something new. And every time I said yes, because what was I going to do? Say no. Let her family suffer when I had the means to help. I knew what it looked like from the outside. I wasn't completely delusional. But from the inside, it felt different. It felt like love. Like partnership. Like we were building something together. September came and I'd been in Thailand for 6 months. My visa was running out, and I needed to do a border run or apply for something longer term. Noi suggested we go to Cambodia for a few days, make a trip of it. I agreed. We took a bus to the border, crossed into Siem Reap, saw the temples at Angkor Wat. It should have been romantic, and parts of it were, but I was also starting to feel stretched thin. Financially, emotionally. I'd spent more money than I'd planned, and my savings were looking less comfortable than they had 6 months ago. I tried to talk to Noi about it one night in our guest house. Not accusingly, just honestly. I told her I needed to start thinking about the future, about maybe finding work or going back to England for a bit to regroup. She got upset. Said I was abandoning her, that I'd promised we'd build a life together. I ended up apologizing and promising I wasn't going anywhere. But something had shifted. Or maybe I was just finally seeing clearly. We got back to Bangkok, and I started paying more attention. The way she was on her phone constantly. The way she'd step out to take calls and come back vague about who it was. The way she'd mention going to see friends but never invite me along. The way she'd sometimes come home smelling like cigarettes when she didn't smoke, or with makeup a bit smudged like she'd been out somewhere nice. I told myself I was being paranoid again, that my depression was making me suspicious and untrusting, that Noi loved me, and I needed to stop sabotaging the one good thing in my life. Then October happened. I woke up one morning and she was gone. Not unusual. She often went out early to run errands or meet friends. But this time felt different. The flat felt too empty. I checked my phone. No messages. I sent her a text asking where she was. No reply. An hour passed. Then 2. I called her. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I told myself not to panic. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she was busy. But there was this weight in my stomach, this knowing feeling I'd been pushing down for weeks. By afternoon, I was genuinely worried. I messaged her friends, the ones I knew. Nobody had seen her. I went to places we usually went together. Nothing. I even went back to the bar where we'd met, asked if anyone had heard from her. They looked at me with something like pity and said no. That evening, I finally opened my banking app. Something I'd been avoiding because I knew it would stress me out. And that's when I saw it. My account was empty, not low. Empty, completely cleaned out. I thought it was a mistake at first. A glitch. But then I saw the transfers, multiple large transfers over the past week, all going to an account I didn't recognize. Withdrawals from ATMs I'd never been to. My savings, everything my mum had left me, everything I'd worked for, gone. I felt sick. Physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Then I just sat on the floor, shaking, trying to process what had happened. She had my bank details. I'd given them to her months ago when I was setting up online transfers to help her family. I trusted her completely, never thought to check, never thought to protect myself, because you don't protect yourself from someone you love, do you? I tried calling her again and again, nothing. I went to the police the next day, tried to file a report. They were sympathetic, but not hopeful. Foreigners getting scammed by girlfriends. It happened all the time. Did I have proof the money was stolen? Could I prove she didn't have permission to access my account? It was murky. Complicated. Unlikely to go anywhere. I was stranded. I had enough money left in my UK account to survive for maybe a month, but my main savings were gone. The money my mum left me. The cushion I'd built over years. All of it vanished with a girl I thought loved me. The worst part wasn't even the money, if I'm honest. It was the realization, the slow, horrible understanding that maybe none of it had been real, that every smile, every laugh, every time she said she loved me, maybe it was all a performance, a long con, a girl doing what she needed to do to survive, and I was just the mark. But here's where it gets complicated. Here's the part one still can't sort out in my head. I don't think she was lying about everything. I think, in her way, she might have cared about me. I think she saw a broken man who needed saving, and she saved me. She pulled me out of a depression that could have killed me. She made me want to live again. That was real. I felt it. You can't fake that, can you? But she also saw an opportunity. A foreign man with money and no family around to ask questions. A man so grateful for her attention that he'd say yes to anything. And she took it. She took everything. I left Thailand 2 weeks after she disappeared. Came back to Manchester with my tail between my legs, moved back into my flat that still smelled like grief and failure. My sister didn't say I told you so, but I could see it in her eyes. Everyone could. I was angry for a long time, furious at her, at myself, at the whole situation. I'd go over every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out what was real and what was manipulation, trying to pinpoint when she decided to rob me. Was it from the beginning? Or did something change? Did she convince herself she loved me until the money ran out? I'll never know. She never contacted me again, never offered an explanation or an apology, just vanished like she was never there. But here's the thing I've come to terms with, months later, after a lot of therapy and a lot of sleepless nights. She did save my life. That part was true. When I met her, I was barely holding on. I was thinking about ending it more often than I want to admit. And she gave me something to hold on to. She gave me joy and companionship and a reason to keep going. Even if it was built on quicksand, even if it was always going to collapse, it kept me alive long enough to find my footing again. Does that make what she did okay? Absolutely not. She stole from me. She lied to me. She took advantage of my grief and loneliness and trust. That's real damage that I'll be paying off, financially and emotionally, for years. But did she save my life before she ruined it? Yeah, she did. And I don't know if I should hate her or thank her, because somehow both feel true at the same time. I'm back at work now, seeing a therapist twice a month. Rebuilding my savings slowly, talking to my sister regularly, doing the boring, necessary work of putting my life back together. I'm not the same person I was before Thailand, and not even the same person I was when I met Noi. I'm somewhere in between. A bit more cautious, a bit more aware, a bit less naive about love and trust and the things people do when they're desperate. I don't regret going to Thailand. I know that sounds mad after everything, but I don't. I needed to leave Manchester. I needed to break the cycle I was in. And Noi, for all the pain she caused, showed me that I could still feel something, that I could still connect with another person, that I wasn't completely broken. I just wish she'd left me with more than an empty bank account and a head full of questions. Would I do it again? Knowing what I know now? I honestly don't know. Part of me says, absolutely not, don't be stupid. But another part, the part that remembers those mornings on the balcony and the way she looked at me like I mattered, that part says, maybe. Maybe it was worth it just to feel alive again. That's the contradiction I live with now. She saved me and she destroyed me, and somehow both things exist at the same time. I guess that's what happens when you let someone in who shouldn't be there. They change you. They leave marks. And you spend the rest of your life trying to figure out if those marks are scars or souvenirs. I'm telling this story because I want other guys to hear it. Not as a warning to never trust anyone or never open your heart, but as a reminder that vulnerability and wisdom don't have to be opposites. You can be open to connection and still protect yourself. You can be generous without being reckless. You can love someone and still keep your eyes open. If you're in Thailand right now, or thinking about going, or already caught up in something that feels too good to be true, just pause. Ask yourself hard questions. Are you being loved, or are you being managed? Are you helping, or are you being used? And if you can't tell the difference, that's your answer right there. I couldn't tell the difference. I was too broken and too grateful to see clearly, and it cost me everything my mum left me, which feels like losing her all over again in a different way. But I'm still here. I'm still standing, and maybe that's because of Noi, not in spite of her. Maybe she bought me enough time to remember why life was worth living, even if she took everything else in the process. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. Part of me hopes I don't. Part of me hopes I do, just so I could ask her one question. Did any of it mean something to you? Or was I just a job you were good at? I'll probably never get that answer. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the not knowing is part of the lesson. Maybe learning to live with contradiction and confusion and unresolved endings is what growing up actually looks like. So yeah, that's my story. The Thai bar girl who saved my life then disappeared with my money. She was my salvation and my destruction, my hope and my cautionary tale. And I'm still figuring out how to hold both of those truths at the same time. James's story sits with you, doesn't it? That uncomfortable middle ground where someone can be both your savior and your downfall. It's easy to say he was naive, that he should have known better, that the signs were there from the start, and maybe they were. But when you're drowning, you don't question the hand that pulls you up. You just grab it and hold on. What strikes me most about this story is the absence of a clear villain. Noi did something terrible. She manipulated someone's grief and loneliness for financial gain. She stole money that wasn't hers and disappeared without explanation. That's not ambiguous. That's wrong. But she also genuinely pulled James back from the edge. She made him laugh again. She gave him something to wake up for. And I don't think you can fake that completely, even if you're running a con. Maybe that's the hardest truth about stories like this. People aren't heroes or villains. They're complicated. They're capable of genuine kindness and calculated cruelty, sometimes toward the same person. Noi was probably desperate, probably supporting a family back home, probably doing what she felt she had to do to survive in a system that gave her limited options. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it explains it. An explanation isn't the same as justification. What about James? Was he a victim, or was he complicit in his own downfall? I think the answer is both. He was genuinely vulnerable, genuinely struggling, genuinely saved by someone who showed him compassion, but he was also willfully blind. He ignored red flags because acknowledging them would mean losing the one thing keeping him afloat. He chose comfort over clarity, and that's a very human thing to do, even if it's a costly one. The lesson here isn't, don't trust people, or don't fall in love abroad, or don't help someone in need. The lesson is simpler and harder than that. It's about balance. It's about maintaining enough self-awareness to recognize when generosity becomes self-destruction. It's about understanding that you can be kind without being careless, open without being foolish, loving without being reckless. James lost everything his mother left him. That's not just money. That's legacy. That's the last tangible piece of someone who raised him and loved him and wanted him to be okay after she was gone. And he gave it to someone who vanished. That's a wound that doesn't heal cleanly. That's something he'll carry forever. But he's also alive. He's here. He survived the depression that nearly killed him, and he survived the betrayal that followed. He's doing the work of rebuilding. And maybe that's the real story. Not the girl who took his money, but the man who learned to keep going anyway. If you've been in James's position or something close to it, you already know this feeling. That mixture of shame and sadness and stubborn gratitude for the good parts, even when the bad parts nearly destroyed you. You know what it's like to love someone who hurt you, and to be hurt by someone you loved. It's messy, it's painful, and it's incredibly common. So here's what I'll say to anyone watching this who sees themselves in James's story. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You were human. You wanted connection and found it in a complicated place with a complicated person. That doesn't make you a fool. It makes you someone who tried. And yes, it cost you. But you're still here. And that matters more than the money, more than the embarrassment, more than the what-ifs that keep you up at night. Learn from it. Protect yourself better next time. But don't close yourself off completely. Don't let one person's betrayal convince you that no one can be trusted, because that's how you end up more alone than James was when he first landed in Bangkok. That's how you trade one kind of death for another. James said he doesn't know if he should hate Noi or thank her. I think the answer is he doesn't have to choose. He can hold both. He can acknowledge that she saved him and ruined him, that she was kind and cruel, that she gave him something precious and took something irreplaceable. Human beings contain multitudes. Relationships contain contradictions. And sometimes the most important thing we can do is stop trying to resolve them into neat narratives and just sit with the mess. If you've got a story like this, if you've been saved by the wrong person or loved by someone who didn't love you back the same way, leave a comment. Share it if you feel comfortable. Because these stories matter. They're warnings, yes, but they're also proof that people survive. That you can lose everything and still find a way forward. That rock bottom has a floor, and once you hit it, the only direction left is up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you, James, for trusting us with something this raw and this real. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, the best love stories don't leave you empty. They fill you up, even when they end.